Hey, what's going on everybody? It's ETAPRIME back here again. Today we're going to be taking a quick look at the all-new AtGames Legends Ultimate Mini. Now this is their newest arcade machine to the market, comes preloaded with 150 games. But if you're familiar with the Legends brand, you know we do have the option to add our own games. They also have ArcadeNet, we can play pinball games on this. I mean, the sky is the limit with these machines. They've done a lot to make this very accessible to a lot of different people. With the Mini, assembly is very simple. Basically, all you need to do is put together the bottom deck here, and then you'll slide the control panel in. Took me about 20 minutes to do with my cat jumping all over everything, and I think it came out pretty nicely. Got some really nice graphics on the side here, and overall, I think it's a solid little machine. And it's a lot smaller than the Legends Ultimate. We've only got a single player deck, there's no trackball, there's no spinner here. But they have included side buttons, so we can play our favorite pinball games on this machine. Now the first thing you might notice is this is in a vertical orientation. And that's totally fine for some of the games that we're going to be playing here, especially the pinball games. But one thing that's really cool about the Mini, this is totally swappable. We can go vertical or horizontal by removing 4 of the screws, and I'll show you that in a second. But I was really interested to see how these pinball games perform on this machine. Now I do own the Legends Ultimate Pinball machine, and I've purchased a few tables, so I've kind of just used them over here on this machine. I've signed into the ArcadeNet, and I can download everything that I own on my other machines on this one here. But keep in mind, this only comes with 150 games pre-installed. There's no pinball, but there's a lot of great stuff on here, and we can also add our own games using a USB drive, and that's really where it comes in for a lot of the do-it-yourself people. We've also got an extra HDMI in, so we can plug in a PC or a Raspberry Pi. And this does have a Raspberry Pi mode, so we can use the built-in control deck on the Pi very easily. You can use it wired or wirelessly. And if you're interested in checking out all the 150 games that are pre-installed on this, I will leave a link to the website so you can go ahead and read through their FAQ. A lot of great stuff, like I mentioned, but I would much rather add my own stuff. So if we head over to the settings here, we do have built-in Wi-Fi. There's also an Ethernet port on the back. Got a lot of different settings. You can do some game streaming with the ArcadeNet. You can fully reconfigure the control deck, and we also have this Raspberry Pi option. And what this is going to allow us to do is connect this deck directly to a Raspberry Pi. We'll plug in HDMI to the free HDMI port on the unit itself and use the built-in screen and controls with your Raspberry Pi, whether you want to do it with RetroPie, Recalbox, or Batocera. So yeah, I really do like what AtGames has been doing with their arcade machines and their pinball machines. They've added a lot of flexibility. I mean, this is really customizable now. And basically, anybody can get one of these, pick it up, and have a lot of fun, either with it set up like it is, or you could add your own games, or add your own hardware. But like I mentioned, the first thing I wanted to test out was at least one pinball game. Since it's already set up in the vertical orientation, I figured we'd go ahead and go with this. I have purchased these on my other machine, so all I really needed to do was sign in with my AtGames login, and I could transfer them all over here, download them right on this machine. It does have dual stereo speakers built in. It actually sounds pretty good. We have physical volume control, so we don't have to do that digitally or anything like that. We've got a volume up and a volume down right on the machine itself. Very easy to access. So one thing I'm not a huge fan of is the glare from the plastic they use. Now luckily this can be removed, but then you don't have the graphics on the side, and I'm actually going to do that for this video in a second once we swap this over to the horizontal position. That way my camera can pick this up better, because the screen on this actually looks really good, but with all the glare in the background and that plastic just reflecting everything, it's really hard to film this screen properly with it on. And the angle I have to sit at right now is a little awkward because my light's in the background, so I should be able to play these games much better in a second. But overall, the pinball machines do work pretty well on this machine. We will test out one more once I get everything off and we can get a better look at it. So it's really easy to swap this from horizontal to vertical. We've got 4 thumb screws right here. You can remove them, you can tighten them up all the way if you want to, but I've just got these finger tight, so it's really easy to get them off. We're going to remove all 4 of these. And once we have those removed, we can actually pull this panel right off. So we've got that front panel. And now we have access to the built-in screen. And it does show you the orientation right here. We have vertical, we have horizontal. So we're just going to kind of pull this out. We're going to rotate the screen. And really cool little feature here, it automatically detected that I rotated the screen, so it does it for us in the background. It'll come up in a second and we'll have a horizontal setup. Now when you're doing this at home, I would highly recommend putting the cover back on so you don't risk scratching the LCD itself, but like I mentioned, it's just much easier for me to film the screen without this panel over it. So I'm going to go ahead and leave it off for the rest of the video, but it's very easy to get back on. You've got those 4 thumb screws, everything's going to be nice and secure. Alright, so let's go ahead and play a game that really requires a horizontal screen. Now, if you wanted to leave it in the vertical position, these horizontal games do work very well, but you're going to have a much smaller play field. It does adjust everything so you can play all of the games when it's in the vertical position, or vice versa, but you will be limited on screen space because we just can't fill the screen. So I'd highly recommend kind of adjusting everything to your play type. So here we have Crude Dudes. Got some really nice bezels going on, and like I mentioned, this screen looks really good. It's just hard for me to film it with that plastic over the front of it. Now, it's not that bad to the naked eye. With that plastic on, it's totally playable, especially if you have a darker room. You still notice a little bit of glare if you have a background light, but you know, for me trying to film it with that on, it was just really hard to do with all the lights and everything. So yeah, the stick and buttons do feel pretty good. They're not Sanwa or super top of the line stuff. You could always swap it out if you want to, but I think it works well for what we have here. And when you're ready to stop playing a game, you can press the At Games button. From here, we can exit. You can remap the built-in buttons if you really need to. I mean, if you find something is a little easier to use in a different way, you can always remap them. And we also have scan lines. We have horizontal and we have vertical scan lines. They're actually really good. I'm going to go with horizontal. I know it's going to be a bit hard to see, but I think they did a pretty decent job setting these up with these games. And to get back to the main menu, At Games button, just go to Quit Game. It'll bring us right back into the menu and we can start playing another game. So what I'm going to do is just test out a few more games. I also want to run one more pinball game just to see how it performs, and this way you can actually get a better look at it. Another cool feature these At Games machines have built in is Arcade Net, and basically what we can do here is stream games. So I'm going to go with the Neo Geo game. I'll just test this out real quick. This is really going to depend on your internet connection. I'm connected over Ethernet with that gigabit Ethernet port in the back of this unit, so it should perform really well. And like I mentioned, I wanted to show at least one more pinball game running here. And this was never a real machine, like a mechanical machine. This was only digital. So, of course, it's actually going to run really well. This isn't kind of a recreation of a real pinball machine. But these are still really fun to play. And since we have that HDMI input, I figured we'd go ahead and test another machine connected to this monitor. I just went with a mini PC. And I'm running the Redream emulator with Marvel vs. Capcom 2. So yeah, in the end, I've been having a blast with the Legends Mini. We've got 150 licensed games. We can always add our own, or we can add a Raspberry Pi or a PC over HDMI. An 18-inch high-definition LCD that is swappable from horizontal to vertical, and that's something I kind of really like about this machine. So I will have at least one more video coming up. I want to kind of install an internal Raspberry Pi, that way all I have to do is really press a button to get it going. I was going to do it with the original, but I do think it makes more sense with this unit here since we don't have that many controls to mess around with. We can have a ton of different games located on the Raspberry Pi and the Legends side of things, And when it comes down to it, I really do think that this is a great starter cab. I mean, you could just pull it right out of the box. It takes about 20 minutes to assemble. You can be up and playing in no time. And then when you want to add your own stuff, it's really easy to do. I think At Games has been doing a really good job with these retro systems lately. So that's going to wrap it up for this one. I really appreciate you watching. If there's anything else you want to see running on this, or if you want to see any tutorials on how to add your own games to a USB drive, just let me know in the comments below. But if you do a quick Google search, you can probably find all of that really easily. If you're interested in learning more about the Legends Ultimate Mini, I will leave a link to their website in the description. But that's going to wrap it up for this one. And like always, thanks for watching.